Hello everyone and welcome to Nervous Nessie. Today I wanted to go over 5 big changes that's coming to the world of travel. And whether you are traveling domestically or internationally, at least one of these is going to apply to you. The very first change I wanted to talk about, I'm going to give you a broad umbrella, and that is there are a lot of changes coming to the airlines, specifically American Airlines, not the brand, but airlines in the United States. Now, I'm doing the blanket statement for this because those changes, it's a lot and it's changing constantly. And this video, I could do an entire video of just the changes that are coming. But I do want to mention some of them. One is the changes to when your flights are delayed and canceled. Now they have changed the rules on that to where you can get refunds and all kinds of different perks. Again, I don't want to go into detail because it seems like it's constantly changing. Just this past year, it has gone from you can get a refund or get, a credit within a certain amount of time to now you always can. It's constantly changing and getting so much better for the travelers. But I did want to mention that the airlines are making these changes. A couple of other changes that are kind of starting to roll out, but they're not quite there yet. And I have the feeling that with the Department of Transportation making changes to the airlines, I foresee in the future that there's going to be some changes, and that has to do with the amount of space and seating on flights. They've done the research and found that it is very unsafe on flights should something happen because of how many seats they have put in there and how tight it is, and if something happens, how quickly it takes to get off the plane. And so some of the airlines, the planes are slowly changing to make a little more space between you and the seat in front of you and the seat next to you and how wide the actual aisles are. That will be a change that will take a while to roll out, but it's getting there. And I have the feeling in the near future, next coming years, that really is going to roll out. The next change I want to talk about does have to do with flights in the United States. If you are a US citizen, we have an official date. I say that because this date has been pushed back so many times that it's become kind of a joke. Like, is this really going to happen? But now they're saying it is definitive that, and I have it wrote down, I want to make sure I tell you the correct date, which is an odd date. May 27th, that's 27, of 2025, all US citizens that want to fly, they're going to have a real ID. Now, obviously, they want everyone to be safe and have this real ID, which is different from your normal driver's license. It has a lot more information on there about you. And so it kind of started to roll out pre-pandemic. And then, of course, the pandemic happened and it shut down and they pushed it back. Then, once the pandemic was over with, they were like, everyone must get the real ID. And then everyone started flooding all of their local DMVs to try and get it. And it just became overwhelming. So they pushed the actual deadline back several more months, and it kept getting pushed back. But now they're saying that this May 27th, 2025 date is going to be the hard deadline. That by that point, anyone who really wants to fly should have already gotten a real ID. Now, You could use your passport, but if you're someone who you rarely travel, or if you travel, you only travel in the United States, then you are going to have to get that real ID. And all it really is just a matter of going to the DMV and getting the real ID. I have heard, and I don't know if it's confirmed, but I have heard that you can renew your ID online, that you don't actually have to physically go to the DMV anymore, but I don't know if that applies to the real ID. So if you're someone who doesn't have the real ID yet and you know you're going to be traveling, then look into, can you do it online, or am I going to have to actually go to the DMV to get that real ID? And speaking of renewing online, this number 3 is one of my favorite changes that has come about, and that is now you can renew your passport online. Why this wasn't a thing already, I don't know. But yes, you can now renew your passport online. Obviously, your passport's going to last for several years, but when it comes time to renew it, it has always been a pain because you have to mail in your old one and then wait for the new one to show up, and it was a headache. And now you can actually renew it online. You don't have to go to any offices, and it is wonderful. I haven't had to do it yet, so I don't know all of the different little steps and whatnot, but if you need to renew your passport, then you can now do it online, which is wonderful. The 4th change that is now coming about is Apple AirTags are now going to be able to be shared with the airlines. Now, I put Apple AirTags in all of the bags that I carry. I put it in my check luggage, I put it in my personal item and my carry-on, and that way I have my phone and I can travel and have my luggage tracked as I travel. But before now, if you had the Apple AirTag, and let's say you're at the airport and you don't see your luggage, but it says your luggage is in the airport somewhere, you would go over to the lost luggage counter and say, hey, I see it. Look on my phone. It's right here. You need to go to this spot. The airlines couldn't do anything about it. They would just say, I'm sorry. Good luck. And now the airlines are going to be changing to where they can actually track the stuff themselves. So the way that it works is whenever you have your Apple AirTag and you've put it in your luggage, and your luggage is off in the ether somewhere, you can go to the lost luggage claim and pull up the Find My app on your phone. And it will prompt you to share the location of your luggage. And you can share it with the agent there at the lost luggage claim area. And then they will actually create a ticket and they will be able to follow your luggage and find it for you. Now, the first airline that has made this officially live, and you can do it now, is United Airlines. But all of the other major airlines in the United States and some international airlines are slowly rolling it out as well. And this is fantastic because it's frustrating if you lose your luggage, but it's even more frustrating when you know it's back behind in the airport somewhere and you can't get to it and they can't get to it either. So this is great. Now, the 5th change that is coming to travel, I actually had to write this stuff down, so if you see me looking down, it's a lot. Bear with me, but I wanted to make sure I tell you the correct stuff. And it has to do with traveling to Europe. Now, if you're, up until now, if you were a US, Australian, or Canadian citizen, you didn't need anything to travel to Europe. You just fly to Europe and travel there. But there are changes, there are restrictions coming that you need to know about. Now, the first one is going to be happening on January 8th of 2025. And it is where if you are a US, Canadian, or Australian resident and you're traveling to the UK, not Europe, the UK, then you need to purchase an ETA, which is an electronic travel authorization. Now, this ETA, it actually is, let me see here, it costs $13 to do it, and you have to give them your email address, your passport, a headshot that's kind of like what would be on your passport, your travel plans. So you have to actually tell them, I'm going to this city, I will be staying for this amount of days, I'm taking the train to blah, blah, blah. You have to tell them all of your travel plans whenever you fill out the form online. And of course, you have to have a way to pay for the roughly $13 it costs to do the ETA. Now, once you actually do the ETA, then it lasts for 6 months. So you could travel back and forth to the UK for 6 months on that one ETA. After the 6 months, you're going to have to do it all over again. But really, $13 is not that bad when it comes to being able to travel to the UK. Now, the second part of this is traveling to the rest of Europe. That is most of your European countries. They are going to be rolling out, it's the EES, the European Entry-Exit System. Now, once that rolls out, 6 months later, approximately, which will be roughly, they're estimating mid-2025, then the ETIAS, the European Travel Information and Authorization System, you will have to have one of those to travel to Europe. And again, same requirements. You're going to need your passport, headshot, email, travel plans, and a way to pay for it. Now, the ETIAS is cheaper. It's going to be roughly about $8. Where the ETA was $13, the ETIAS is about $8. And the great thing about the ETIAS is that it lasts 3 years. ETA, UK, 6 months. ETIAS, $8, 3 years. Now, how long in advance should you register for the ETA or the ETIAS? They are saying that you should leave yourself at least 72 hours before. Most of the applications go through right away. They're almost immediate. But they recommend at least 72 hours before your trip, you should do the application online. If it was me and I'm going to be traveling, I would actually do that first before even booking the trip. Unless you are booking your trip 6 months in advance, because again, remember, it only lasts for 6 months if you're traveling to the UK. But I would just go ahead and do it right away. Get it over with. That way you can get approved, because it would be really bad if for whatever reason you don't get approved and you've spent all this money that you can't get back. Yeah, I would go ahead and get approved before booking the trip. I know all of this is a lot in a very short period of time. I wanted to make this video quick, but I will put the information below. That way you can kind of read over it. Just know that when I put that information on there, specifically the dates, that can change. Again, they have been delaying all of this stuff in order to get processes in place. So don't think it's concrete. It's just there as a guide for you. That way, if you are planning on traveling, you have a rough estimate of when all of this stuff is going to happen. I hope you enjoyed this video. The changes that are coming are awesome. I know having to pay and do an application is not awesome, but if it's for safety, that's kind of awesome. But yeah, I am really excited about the changes. It seems like the governments are looking out more for the travelers versus looking out more for the airlines and stuff. So yeah, some great changes coming. If you would like to know when the next video comes out, then subscribe, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the next video. Bye!